The leader would watch on in amusement. His creation, the destructive Cain, grabbed Baki, the monstrous Hulk, by its hair, dragging his large, green, monstrous body to the edge of the platform, ready to cascade him down into the molten lava of Mount Sakurajima, to encase him in the inferno lake of fire, and to claim his victory. As he watched comfortably from his floating fortress up above, he felt this sense of completion. Everything was coming together just as he had planned it would. For the camera crews and those who were watching on with the leader from his comforts, they couldn't help but ask the opening questions. Why was Cain here? Cain of all people. What was all of this about? Of course, the leader, wanting to have a chance to gloat in his victory, was more than willing to illuminate the clueless masses out there. Oh yes, I know. All of you have so many questions right now. You're all probably wondering, why is Cain of all people back? Why did I choose him? Why is Baki getting his ass kicked? Well, I'm sure that if I had to go into a diatribe and truly explain the complexities of it all, well, your brains wouldn't fully be able to comprehend the rationale behind my decision making, but I'll try to dumb things down for you. You see, in the Amazon, I came across a fascinating creature, an android known as Piecemeal. Of course, I thought the name was absolutely absurd, but its technological inputs, that was useful. Of course, it didn't have my forte. It didn't have my technical know-how. It didn't have my input. That's why it was a failure. That's why Piecemeal was a failure. I just turned a failure into a success. And like I've said before, if I'm not anything, I am a gracious leader. I am a humble leader. I am a leader that wants to entertain the masses. So the way I see it, why not give them a little bit of nostalgia? Give them something that's familiar to them. I know that for a lot of people, they were quite fond of the wrestling of old, especially from the Americas, the World Wrestling Federation, and those characters alike. And I found Cain to be such an interesting one. As such, I remodeled the android after his likeness. The big red machine, the devil's favorite demon. And I figured this would be my magnum opus, if you will. This would be the culmination. No, that's too small. Not the culmination. This would be the beginning. This would be the beginning of change. Because you see, for so long, this world has gone to hell in a handbasket. I mean, look at everything. Look around you. Do any of you people feel safe? Do any of you feel secure? When S.H.I.E.L.D., the agency that you put your trust in, was overtaken by Hydra, your national security was put at risk. The lives of your children were put at risk. You came to realize that you could not trust your so-called heroes. Your paragons of justice have failed you, and now you have allowed for the inmates to run the asylum. You allow for criminals like the Mishimas to run Japan. You allow for other organizations to take over. You put your faith in people like Thaddeus Ross, the so-called Thunderbolt, the man who was tasked to track down Yujiro Hanma for over 30 years, and he couldn't get the job done. And you gave him the presidency. You were prepared to elect Wilson Fisk as your president. But when I offered you my guidance, when I offered you my leadership, what did you do? You sent that 2-bit, short-brained thug Yujiro after me. And you allow him to roam this world doing as he pleases, because you call him the world's strongest creature. You resorted back to your Neanderthal ways. You resorted back to your primitive ways of might makes right. Well, I will show you what true might is. The might of my intellect, the might of my brain, the might that comes from my mind, that is second to none. It starts with Baki. Yujiro has put his faith in his son, and his son will fail. His son will fall at my feet. I will take his organization. I will take everything from him. Yujiro, Yujiro, Yujiro. You are a fool, because you have underestimated me. The biggest mistake of your life was letting me out of that cell. But I waited patiently because I knew you'd come back. That's the difference between you and me. I grew stronger in my exile. But you grew complacent. You were seeking a challenge when your challenge was waiting for you. And now your insolence, your arrogance will cost you dearly. You took everything from me. And so I'm going to take everything from you. I will take away your pride and joy. Because you put your faith in him to be your challenger, I will rob you the way you have robbed me, Samuel said. I will rob you of that satisfaction. You won't get to fight Baki. No, that will escape you. The only person who you will do battle with is with me. And quite frankly, I can't even call it a battle, because you and I are in two different dimensions of the mind. I am far above you. My mind is far above your station in life. But I do hope you are entertained. And I do hope that you enjoy the show. And the show raged on inside of the volcano. Baki, the Hulk, staggering back to his feet as the murderous, monstrous machine Kane, moving with its own purpose, the purpose of its master, to destroy his enemy and to encase him in the fiery depths of the lava down below. As Baki staggered forward, He would launch a swift roundhouse kick to the face of Kane, shattering half of his mask, revealing only an empty husk on the inside, the face of something entirely mechanical. As Baki looked on, he saw what he was fighting against, something that was only machine and not man. As Baki would get into a fighting stance and reaffirm his convictions, the heat beginning to bellow around them, torrents of magma beginning to rise, the volcano that was set to explode at any moment, that was known for bouts of eruption. Baki could feel the tremors beneath him. He could tell that if this fight persisted any further, it would result in the destruction of them both. Of course, he had read the fine print of the contract that he had to sign before this match began. Contrary to popular belief, he wasn't the big, dumb, jock idiot that the leader thought of himself to be. The leader had made it very clear that even though his creation, Kane, would be serving as his representative, he had it tied up that he could win under various scenarios. If Baki was burned alive, he won. If both Kane and Baki were burned alive, he won. Under any circumstance, as long as Baki was destroyed, Kane was nothing more but an afterthought. In the end, the leader would claim victory no matter what. This had been his strategy. He had taken time to study Baki, to learn of what this gamma-irradiated brute of a teenager was truly capable of. Of course, for Samuel, he had to learn a lot about these gamma monsters. And this all led back to that experiment back in the 70s. That experiment that turned Yujiro Hanma into the raging Red Hulk that he became. Of course, he would have liked to have studied more from the notes of the late Dr. Banner, but unfortunately, he died during the midst of that unsavory explosion, and a lot of his research went along with him. For what they had now, Yujiro was a freak of nature, and so were his children, Jack Hanma, the Grey Hulk. Although he was a lot more aloof. Last of his whereabouts, he was said to be lying low somewhere in Mexico. And word was, he wasn't doing too well health-wise. He only had 2 or 3 years left to live. As for Baki, he was said to be the Hanma with the most promise. Although unlike his father, his gamma power didn't give him a great sense of fire. As Yujiro, the angrier he got, the hotter he became. For Yujiro, he was said to be the demon of fire, the Red Hulk, the man that left nothing but burning ash and cinder in his wake. And at this point, if he wanted to, he can make the whole world his living hell. For Baki, Baki's power came from a different source, the leader would concur. But what was it? What was the trigger? He hadn't quite figured it out yet, although he could tell that it had to do something with the inner man. Perhaps it was a different trigger of sorts. All the same, he had figured out ways of creating stronger beings, androids that were capable of fighting against a Hulk-like being of that caliber. And now, with his creation in Kane, he had seemingly made a match for Baki. As Baki and Kane were now back to their feet once more, the two behemoths now engaged in combat once again, Kane would lock in using his signature fighting style, that being of a basic big man brute. Signature clotheslines and choke slams, attempting to bully Baki with brute, unequivocal mechanical force. A machine that didn't tire, that didn't stagger, no loss in stamina, didn't have to take a breath. While Baki, for all of his strength, he still had to draw in air. He had to take a breath. A shot to the liver, a shot to the kidney, reinforced strength. For Kane, his body wasn't built for shock absorption, but it was even for shock nullification. And for Baki, he was starting to see that Kane could withstand any type of punishment that he could dish out. Eventually, as they came to the center of the platform, Baki could feel himself reaching his limit. He was starting to get pissed. He knew if this continued on any further, this was going to be the end of him. Of course, this was when Baki started hearing that voice, the inner Baki in his mind. But was this really a moment to call upon his own inner anger? That crutch? The part of him that he had to turn to? That dark motivation when he didn't have any other within himself? Because truly, Baki did not harbor as much anger as one would inquire. At least, not on the surface. For Baki, his entire life, it almost felt devoid of any purpose, of any meaning. He felt like a living contradiction in a way. There was a part of him that loved the fight, a part of him that enjoyed it, that enjoyed the thrill of competition more than anyone else. But he wasn't a sadist like his father. He wasn't the type of person that wanted to use his power to flex on others. He didn't want to impose his will on anyone else. Sure, growing up, his relationship with his mom was strained at best. Baki remembered the days as his mother would always have him train rigorously, remembering how she would bring in the finest of martial arts and fitness instructors all around the world just to try to toughen him up. Her love, it was always conditional. Every time he did well, she showed him affection. Whenever he failed, whenever he did not live up to the expectation that she set before him, she gave him the cold shoulder. And then, when his father finally returned, Baki remembered the day that he faced him. He still had that day burned into his mind. He felt like he had finally met his purpose. If he beat his father, he'd gain everything he ever wanted, right? That was all he had to do. And yet, when they fought, for every punch that he threw at him, it did nothing. Yujiro looked unimpressed that day. In fact, he looked disappointed. "Is this the best you can do, boy?" he remembered Yujiro saying. "Can you even transform?" "What? Transform? Come on, can't you do it?" "What are you talking about? Are you serious? He can't transform?" "What have you been doing all this time?" "I gave you everything, didn't I?" Yujiro said to Baki's mother. "I gave you all the resources, all the tools, everything you needed to make me a strong fighter of a son. And this is the best you could do." Yujiro, he laughed. As Baki kneed him in the face, he laughed. As Baki would punch and kick all over him, he laughed. He thanked everyone. It was nice to see his son again for what it was worth. He grabbed Yujiro by the face. Baki did, delivering a devastating headbutt. Only he didn't move. Yujiro would return the favor, knocking Baki almost completely unconscious as he proceeded to mercilessly beat his son into the ground. It was the first time he had ever taken the loss. The first time that his body had been rendered completely useless. For the first time, he felt what true power was. And Yujiro didn't even need to transform or turn red. All he gave off was a red aura, and that was enough. For Baki, he didn't have it. He didn't have the intensity. He didn't have the strength. Eventually, the beating became so much, Baki's mother saw enough. Had she been foolish, she accepted everything that Yujiro gave her. A woman who let herself be caught up in her lust and desire. She attempted to stand up to the man that she called her husband. She tried to fight him. A battered and beaten Baki lying on the ground, looking up, watching as his mother was gripped into a bear hug. Yujiro looked down at his son. Let this be a lesson to you, boy. This is what you're truly capable of. You have to find what motivates you. You must find what gives you strength. You must cut out all weakness. Evolve or die, Baki. His father's clothes would begin to rip as his father would transform, his skin turning into a darker shade of red. As his muscles would begin to expand and grow, he watched as his mother wailed and screamed, her bones beginning to crack as she cried out in pain. Baki looking on desperately crying out for his body to move, but it didn't. He yelled at his legs, his arms, for something. Eventually, his mother's cries went silent. Her back snapped, her spine severing. She was dead. And what stood over Baki? The Red Hulk. Her body had been burned. The aura, the crimson aura, had now turned into flame. For Baki, he felt like he was looking up at a demon. A true monster. As he felt his mother's cold corpse upon him. He wanted to do something. But he couldn't. He didn't have it within him. But there was another part of him that did. Deep within himself, he found that there was a cage. And behind that cage, there was another Baki. The one emotion that Baki had never used in his life. The one emotion that Baki had never called upon. It looked to him. Let me out, it said. If you won't do it, then give it to me, it said. You didn't love her. You didn't care about her. So give it to me, and I'll do it I'll kill him! For Baki, he wasn't sure what decision to make. Whatever this thing was, could he actually give himself over? Was that the wisest decision? This inner Baki, this Baki that was fueled by hate, it wanted to be set free. In the end, could Baki deny him his vengeance? Did he have any right to? Make no mistake, Baki loved his mother. But deep down, that love was not accompanied by hate. But yet his hatred stood before him. And the cage that kept them apart was the thin line that separated them both. The part of himself that he had always denied. What happened next, Baki couldn't remember. But when it was all said and done, he woke up in a hospital. He remembered receiving a call from Yujiro, who told him that he was proud and that he had only just begun. From then on, Baki continued to train, and slowly but surely, he began to learn how to put the beast and the man together. Slowly learning how to draw upon that power. The power, yes, but the rage, no. The rage was the one thing that he couldn't claim for himself. And because of that, there would always be a limit for just how strong he could be. And for Baki, that was enough. For Baki, the power that he had now, he could always accept that. But now that he found himself in a life or death situation, when he found himself on the verge of losing it all, suddenly his life flashed before his eyes. He thought about everything that had happened to him so far. The life he had lived, the things that he had yet to accomplish. And now he was sparked by a new emotion. The emotion of desperation. As he kicked back against Kane, the machine gripping Baki into a bear hug, Baki would call forth on the anger, and yet it refused him. The beast that had always been there, the monster that had always been willing to come forth, now suddenly it did not want to answer his cries. "You never had a problem making yourself known now," Baki said to his inner self. "So why are you denying me power?" "Because you don't want it bad enough." "What was that?" "You don't want it bad enough. You're just using me as a crutch." "So? What does it matter to you?" "It matters a hell of a lot more to me than you think. Just who the hell do you think you are? You walk through life with that carefree, smug-ass smile on your face. You act like you don't care. Like nothing matters to you. Like nothing gets to you. But when you're in pain, when you're desperate, when you're weak, that's when you call on me. That's when you run to me. You want to know why I'm always angry? It's not just because of what I've lost. It's because of you. What I hate the most is you. You've always had the power, Baki. You've always had the strength. You've always had it. But yet you were too weak to take it. Too weak to claim it. It's pathetic, really, the inner Baki said. Your rage, the part of you that you deny, and yet I'm the part of you that gives you your strength. Well, I'm so sorry that I don't want to black out and turn into a raging monster. And have you ever tried to control that rage, even once? No. You got scared. You became a little bitch, and you decided to lock me away. You remember, don't you? You remember that day. The day when they pushed you to your limit. When you were training, you tapped into that power. But you became so scared and so frightened that you built this cage around me. You locked me away in the darkness. You kept me there for so long. And do you know what it's like to be trapped? To be trapped in that place when you can't get out? You go insane. You feel like no one can hear you. You feel like you're the problem. I'm not the problem. You are. And now look at where it's gotten you. All this power, and yet you're too weak to use it. You know, perhaps you're better off like this. It's better that your story ends here. After all, you would have just been a disappointment anyway. You deny yourself time and time again. You've denied who you truly are for so long. You deny what makes you who you are. Accept what you are. And just what am I? You're a monster, Baki. No matter how much you smile for that camera, no matter how many times you pose, no matter how many times you try to act cool and calm and act like you don't care, you do. In the end, you're the son of Yujiro Hanma. You're the son of a murderer. You have the blood of a monster coursing through your veins. This is what you are, Baki. The sooner you accept it, the sooner that you embrace it, that is when you will gain your power. On the outside, the murderous monster android known as Kane was dragging Baki to the edge, attempting to slam him off of the platform and into the lava. Eventually, Baki would manage to reverse its grip as Kane was ready to chokeslam him down into the fiery magma below. Baki, in that moment of being raised up, would catch Kane into an arm lock, ripping his entire arm out of its socket, the mechanical arm falling out of place, careening down below as Baki would wrap his arms right around the waist lock of Kane. The leader watched on in anticipation, along with everyone else, as Baki would immediately jump backwards. The two of them careening as Baki suplexed the both of them down into the magma depths below. Kozu would scream in horror. Everyone else that was watching on would yell terrified as both combatants plunged into the lava. For the leader, he cried out in success because he had gotten what he had wanted. Ha! See? I told you. I had it all planned out. I can't lose. The poor idiot. He rage quit because he couldn't win. He had to take my creation with him to his grave. But I'm sorry, sir, but the fight's not over yet. Huh? There has to be a 10 count, sir. What? Well, you see, sir, it's not a traditional Inferno match. So, given the stipulations... Shut up! Who cares? What is it? There has to be a 10 count administered. If neither one of them get out, then you win. Well, what are you waiting for? Administer the 10 count, damn it! Ow! The leader, using his telekinesis, would grab hold of the official, slamming him against the wall and making him begin to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, faster, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. With a loud roar, a large explosion would be heard as a being began jumping out of the magma, jumping far past the cliff sides of the volcano and onto the rocky edge. Covered in magma, his body severely burnt, but aglow in a green aura and a menacing look of rage. With his fist high in the air, the leader yelled out, "No, no, 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 no! Dead! It's over! It's over! The winner of the Inferno match! And still, your Metahuman Federation World Heavyweight Champion, the Immortal Hulk, Baki Hanma!" No, 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 no. I won. I won. No, I won. I won, damn it. The leader couldn't believe it. For Baki, he shook off as much of the magma as he could, shaking in every direction as his body slowly began to decrease in size. His clothing all but burnt away, with very little holding on to him at this point as he collapsed in the crater. His skin still showing some severe burn marks, scars, but he was still alive and victorious. An emergency crew would head to Baki's side with some fire extinguishers, special foam that was made to try to douse as much of the burning sensation as they could. In the meantime, though, the leader's ship would fly away, with those on commentary speculating that the leader was flying off in a pissy mood that he had now lost. But for Baki, he was just happy that the fight was over. Another challenge down, and now he was ready to move on to the next opponent. However, as Baki was being transported to a medical facility, any thoughts of reveling in his victory would be short-lived. As they were riding in the ambulance, somehow one of the phones of the officials would go off. And as he answered, he would immediately hand it to Baki. Hello? You think you're clever, don't you? Don't you? Samuel? That's the leader to you, damn it! I didn't lose. I didn't lose. You lost. It's over. Get over it. Baki? Baki? Kozu? Kozu! Yeah, that's right. You hear that? I've got your girl, Baki. How does that feel? How does that make you feel? Stop the ambulance, damn it! Baki yelled, his voice commanding enough as it would be pulled to the side. Sir, please, we have to tell you to... Get off of me, Baki yelled. He would kick the back door off of its hinges, sending it flying for multiple city blocks as he jumped out, grabbing a fresh pair of pants and nothing else. Where are you? Oh, do I have your attention now, Baki? Like I said, it's not over. I swear, if you do anything to her, you'll what? You'll what? You don't get to decide anything now, Baki. I do. You don't call the shots. I'm the boss around here. I'm the leader. And like I said, our fight isn't over. It's just getting started. Kozu? Kozu! The line would go dead. Baki would yell as he jumped into the air without even turning a shade. Things had now gotten personal. This wasn't about championships. This was not about honor. This was not about competition. This was a grudge. A battle of vengeance. And unfortunately, in a fight like this, someone was going to have to pay with their life. This concludes Baki, the Immortal Grappler. What if Baki was the Hulk? Season 1, Part 9. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned tomorrow as we continue and conclude Baki the Immortal Grappler. What if Baki was the Hulk? Season 1, Part 10, the Season 1 finale. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.